I had no idea that this exhibition would have the impact it has on students and also on the press outside of Wesleyan, but it has really touched a chord in people. And I think it's kind of amazing that Hagit, who lives on a observant kibbutz, would be challenging certain ritual that, even though a lot of the students who came to see the show are not necessarily Jewish and not necessarily, observant, that it would really touch a chord in them, because it's not all that different from other ways in any number of cultures where women are oppressed either by the culture or by religious practices. And I've spoken to students who say that they're talking about the show in various classes they take. And I think it's also because the show is not particularly about literal representations of the subject matter, but almost abstract in a way. I mean, the works in the show look very minimal, and so that you really have to look at the work as art. I mean, you're dealing with form, and although the materials are not that conventional, I mean, there are a lot of found objects that are, because of the way they're displayed, they encourage you to look at them in a very different way than what their original function is. And you see, for example, the tzitzit they almost look like abstract forms, and if you don't know what their use is, you could be, it seems very mysterious, but there's also this element that seems very obvious to some people looking at them, like myself, that there's a phallic image in them, which makes you really wonder what their use is. They do look like there's something to be used, but it's just really perplexing if you don't know what they would be used for. I'm too embarrassed to even tell you what I originally thought their use was because of the shape of the opening. But there are other works here as well. The two big paintings that are just behind me, I wouldn't call them paintings, but they're kind of mixed media, two-dimensional works, incorporate the badika cloths, and they are also very minimal shape. They look sort of like flags. And I think there's an element of humor in all this that I can't imagine was not somewhat intended, although I guess it would depend on the viewer to actually perceive it as humor or not. And also, I would imagine that your own culture and the kind of culture that you're part of would influence how you see the work. So I think on that level it's really interesting, because there's so many different ways to perceive the work, and I think it's extremely evocative. There are certain materials that are used that suggest, they're really metaphoric for metaphors for sort of female condition, and the sugar cubes that take the shape of the badika cloth. We all know that sugar is extremely fragile. In the course of the exhibition, I don't think it's all because people have bumped into it, but they just it seems to sort of self-destruct. And so that suggests the fragility of women, or often, I would say, the fragility that's sometimes associated with women. But ironically, this, to me, represents the work of an extremely strong and powerful young woman. The idea that someone, in an observant community is challenging a practice that is observed by probably most people in the community. And I think the fact that her husband has been very supportive in this is just remarkable.